All right. I once met a mass murderer, and I could have died, and he also gave me this. Now, this is a true story and also quite bizarre, and I'd like to share this with you guys finally, so stick around for the whole story. Normally, my channel is about guitar gear, so guitar amplifiers and guitars, so this is quite a different type of video, but it's a very unique story and I feel compelled to share it with you. In order for you to understand the whole story, I have to give some context, so we have to go back to 2005 when I was 19 years old. In high school, I was addicted to playing the guitar, and I knew that for the rest of my life, I wanted to be a guitar player and rock out. And even though my parents were understandably sort of doubtful about that career choice, I went ahead with it anyway. I was quite determined. I didn't care what anybody thought, I just wanted to play the guitar. And I applied for a special music college or conservatory in Rotterdam, and luckily I got accepted. Now, before the end of my first year there, I got the opportunity to audition for a well-known Dutch rock band. They were called Intwine, and I knew their songs from the radio because they had had some hits and they played big venues. They were definitely well known. Thanks to my old teacher, Menno, for pushing me to do the audition, by the way. I mean, I was only 19 years old, so I wasn't super confident about this stuff, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So I sent my application email to them and I was invited for an audition. Long story short, some months later I was accepted and I got the job. So after having only done a handful of gigs with my old metal band in high school and 1 year of music college, I was now suddenly a professional musician. Needless to say, this period was very exciting for me, and sometimes I wish that I could relive those years as they were very special. We played many gigs, amazing shows, huge festivals, huge venues, and the best clubs in the Netherlands. I was living the dream basically. I mean, I was 19 years old and rocking out for a living. And I have to say that I'm still very grateful for having experienced that and for having all those memories. Anyway, being in that position came with some interesting opportunities and some interesting experiences. One day our band was approached by this organization who wanted to shine a light on people in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro and Brazil, especially children who wanted to get out of the drug business there, so out of the drug mob, and basically children or young adults who wanted to live a normal life, who wanted to get that chance basically. Because a lot of children in those slums or favelas, they get into the drug mob and gangs and stuff. And that's just how life is there, and it's obviously very dangerous and bad, and I guess that organization wanted to shine a light on that and get attention to those young people. I hope I'm remembering this correctly because it is quite a while ago. This was 18 or 19 years ago or so. So they wanted to fly us over to Rio de Janeiro for us to make a documentary about those people. And they wanted us to meet those people and also jam with a band that was local from there. And then that band would also come to the Netherlands and we would share experiences and basically shine a light on that organization and what they were doing for the people in the slums or favelas. We were also told that the local mob were supporting this organization and that they wanted what's best for the kids. So we were flown to Rio de Janeiro for a week or two. We got to experience Rio itself in all its glory, went to the beach, went for dinners and all that stuff, but we also went into the slums. Now luckily we had a special guide. His name was Nanko, and I think that he was the one who started the organization. And he was a really interesting guy, and sadly he passed away in 2015. Now the slums are a dangerous place, especially for tourists like us. You don't just walk in there and expect to come out unscathed, basically. It's very dangerous, and the people there and the gang mobs and stuff are very protective, and they have guns and weapons and grenades and all that crazy stuff. So Nanko, he would basically be our guide, take us into the slums or favelas and make sure that we don't get killed. And he would also introduce us to various people there, just to show us how everything worked in those areas. And they respected him there, so in theory, with him by our side, we would be safe. Now, it's quite some time ago, so I don't remember all the details, and I don't remember exactly how many times we went into the favelas, but I think at least 4 times or so. We met a bunch of really cool people. We saw kids play music. We had dinner in someone's house. We met the local band. And I remember one time we were walking through the streets there, and suddenly around a corner, a dude with a big gun came walking towards us, ready to shoot. And then Nanko was like, it's okay. It's okay. And then the guy with the gun was like, okay. And he walked away. Because they all knew Nanko and they had respect for him. So right there, he probably saved our lives already. At one point, it was said that we were going to play a show inside of the favela. And we were going to play together with a local band, I think. But before we were allowed to play there, we had to meet the local mob boss. So the local gang boss. So we were like, okay. And I don't recall if they told us beforehand or after. But apparently for this man to have reached this position in the gang, he would likely have to have murdered around 400 people or so. So this man was basically a mass murderer. But the story is going to get even crazier. So we walk onto this street where this guy was supposed to be. And of course, we were guided by Nanko. And then we saw him sitting there on the side of the street on a little stool. And he was basically wearing swim shorts, a couple of sandals, and a lot of golden chains around his neck. He was kind of a little bit overweight. He was sitting there with his gold teeth. And he was wearing this cap. And one of his legs, I think his left leg, was filled with scars of bullet holes. He was a very interesting and unique looking person, let me say it like that. And for me at least, the situation was definitely sort of uncomfortable. I wasn't feeling happy about having to meet with a mass murderer. But this was part of the whole thing, so we just went along with it. But what made this thing even more crazy is that around him and behind him, there were around, let's say, 7 or 8 little boys with ages from like 8 to 12 or so. And they were standing there protecting him, basically. And they all were carrying big loaded machine guns. Now, how do I know that those guns were loaded? We'll get to that in a minute. And I have to be honest with you guys, I don't like guns. I feel uncomfortable with guns. I live in the Netherlands. Guns aren't normal here. We don't carry them on the street, especially not the big ones, the machine guns and stuff. And definitely not little kids in their shorts, okay? So we had to shake this guy's hand and he would have to approve us in order for us to play that gig in his area, okay? And I was wearing my favorite cap at that time, which is the same cap as this one, in fact. This is a Deftones cap that I had bought a couple weeks prior. And I have a big head, so caps aren't always comfortable for me. And this cap was very comfortable for me. So I was very happy with that cap. And I also love Deftones. So yeah, it was like the perfect cap for me. At one point, Nanko took me aside and he said, hey, the mob boss wants your cap. And my initial reaction was, I don't want to give him my cap. This is my cap. This is my favorite Deftones cap. It's so comfortable. And then he was like, trust me, give him the cap. And I was like, okay. So reluctantly, I gave him my cap. And in return, I got his cap, which is this exact Nike cap. Now, this obviously looked very stupid because my head is too big for this little cap. It still doesn't really fit. But yeah, that was that. And I remember them all laughing about it, and they probably thought that I was a dork, which I was. I felt uncomfortable, and I just gave away my favorite cap, and I had to wear this stupid cap. But I didn't want to disrespect them, so I wore this thing the entire day. And I think they really noticed how awkward I was, so they thought, let's have some fun with this guy. So the boss gave this sort of command to the kids with the guns, and they started handing me the loaded machine guns. Like one kid came, gave me one gun, and they saw how awkward I was, and another kid came and he gave me his gun. And at one point I was holding like 5 loaded machine guns, and they thought it was hilarious, and I was uncomfortable, and it was, not my best moment. I promise I didn't crap my pants though. And then at one point they wanted me to shoot. And I was like, I don't want to shoot. First of all, I have never shot a gun before, and I'm in the middle of this area where people are living, and I don't want to shoot. And I kind of denied. I just didn't want to do it, even though they were saying like, do it, John, come on, shoot the freaking gun. And then luckily my bandmate, the other guitarist, Jacob, thank you, Jacob, he came in and he was like, I'll do it. And he grabbed one of those super big guns. I don't know what that thing is called. And he pointed it at the air and fired a couple of shots. And I do remember how surprised I was at how loud that was. I had never heard that in real life, so it was like pretty shocking. I'm sure some of you guys who are watching this are like, I'm shoot guns every day, which is fine, but that was just a new experience for me. And trust me, we were kind of pressured to do that in that situation. It was not like we were really happy to shoot, okay? But luckily, I didn't have to shoot. If we had declined, I don't know what would have happened, to be honest. Now, we were allowed to make some pictures of us holding the guns and stuff, which, again, was a bit awkward for me. But hey, you can even see it in the pictures. And then something happened which was kind of odd, but the mob boss also wanted us to make a picture of 2 of these kids, which you can see on this picture right here. And some months after having returned from this trip, we got a message from Nanko that either one of those kids or both of them got killed, unfortunately. So that's very sad. I don't recall the exact details, but that was quite shocking. So that was that very weird afternoon. I don't remember anything else. That was basically the main stuff that I remember. So yeah, I met a mass murderer that day and he gave me this cap. And that night we played the show in the favela on a good stage in this street. And a lot of people showed up. And while we were doing this gig, there were 2 big cars standing on either side of the stage with the tinted black windows. But the windows were opened slightly. And each of the windows had a gun barrel pointing out of it. So that was basically the mob protecting the show, okay? And we did our thing. We played the rock. We played the heavy stuff because we played rock with Caribbean influences. And I guess a lot of the people in the crowd were like, this is interesting. So it was a unique experience for sure. I don't really remember if the crowd really enjoyed it, but we enjoyed it and it was definitely interesting. And again, I was wearing this cap because I didn't want to disrespect the mob boss, the mass murdering mob boss. While I'm editing this video, I totally forgot to mention that this cap, of course, isn't the original one because this isn't, you know, the one that I gave to the mob boss. That one is probably under the ground somewhere. I bought this a couple years later at a deftones show where someone was wearing this cap because I couldn't find this cap anywhere. So I went to this person and I said, please let me buy that for 50 euros. And they were like, sure. And they handed me the cap. And ever since then, I've been wearing this almost every single day. It's my favorite cap. Just wanted to, you know, clarify that. Now, unfortunately, the documentary that we were meant to shoot there was never released for whatever reason. So I thought this would make for an interesting story that I finally can share with you guys. I've thought about sharing this story a lot of times, but I felt like now was the time. I'm still alive, so the ending is good, and I spent years in that band until we quit, and that was like one of the most amazing things that I've ever experienced in my life, basically being in that band and experiencing these really interesting things. And this experience with the mass murdering mob boss is definitely something that will hopefully never happen to me again. I hope you enjoyed this interesting and bizarre story. If you've experienced anything strange yourself, let me know in the comments down below. I'll read them all. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this and if you enjoy guitar-related content, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. I'd really appreciate that. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.